and I got to make a picture of that.
Oh, I can send you the image if you want.
Yeah, good. I mean, it's stunning. Let me just put it here nonetheless. Oh, that's great.
Can you send this to our Facebook page? You guys, I want my friends to see this. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Hey, you dorks, this is Gunnar Hansen, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you are listening to The Dorkening.
Hi, I'm Brian Johnson, and although you probably accidentally stumbled across it and have no idea why you're watching it, you are in fact watching The Dorkening.
Hello, this is Tom Kenny, voice actor, the voice of the Ice King on Adventure Time.
And SpongeBob SquarePants. Meow. Oh, Gary the Snail, too. Hey, guess what you're filling your eye holes and ear holes with? The Dorkening!
Oh, I love the Dorkening. Very popular in Ooh.
And Bikini Bottom.
Hi, I'm Lou Ferrigno. You're watching The Dorkening. And you know what? You don't like me when I get angry, so don't get me angry. You better keep watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, this is Felissa Rose, and you're watching The Dorkening.
Hey guys, it's Courtney Palm. We're shooting Death House, and you're watching The Dorkening.
This is Anthony Michael Hall, and you're watching The Dorkening. Stay tuned. My friend's going to show you what entertainment's all about, baby.
The Dorkening.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Rise and shine, my sinners. When Father Evil starts his day, he gets a little deadly. Deadly Grounds coffee has the richest, smoothest flavor you'll find anywhere. It's sinfully delicious. Once you go deadly, you never go back. Order yours at getdeadly.com. Coffee's so good, it's scary.
To Creators Spotlight. We have an amazing show for you today. So many awesome people. I have chills, and they're multiplying. As always, we have with us, I know that was bad, Patsy, Ashes.
Did you eat like gas station egg salad, or was there another reason for that?
Probably another reason, yeah.
Okay, that's good. I was concerned for you for a moment.
Well, thank you. And as always, we have Philip from Dark Discussions.
How's it going, Leo? It's good to be here.
Doing fine. And RW is joining us today for this very special show.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
Would Patsy or Ashes, would you like to introduce our most awesome guest tonight?
Well, I think Ashes is going to take the honors.
I would love to. So after all these years, Grease is still the word. You may have heard of this little film that came out in 1978. Classic. I'm a huge fan. I am so excited to announce Eddie Deezen, Coach Calhoun. Deezen. Sorry. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I was just asked 2 minutes ago if I wanted to do this. I'm so sorry.
You didn't recognize me with the beard.
I mean, that's it. I did not recognize you with the beard.
You have all day to prepare, and you can't say my name. That's very good.
Mr. Barry Pearl.
That's Perel.
Touche.
I love Deezen. We have to start spelling it D''EEZEN. He will now. He's my little brother, by the way.
Yeah.
He will now be known as Eddie Deezen. Thank you, Ashley, for giving us such a gift.
And the absolutely beautiful Miss Jamie Donnelly.
So good to be here.
Oh, thank you for being here with us, and thank you guys for taking the time. I really appreciate you guys, jumping in. And I know Ashes was a little nervous because
now I'm all verklempt. I've got.
Don't worry about it, because you know what, Jamie, she's an Irish gal, but really she's Italian. It's Donnelly. It's not Donnelly. So don't.
I almost said that, Barry.
I was hoping you.
I was waiting for it.
Your show is the Porkening, of course. Yes.
That's what we're gonna feel like after we've done this. Like,
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what's funny is that's not the first time we've been referred to as that. So
okay.
That is our line of sausage, though.
Yeah.
Where did you come up with the Dorkening? What is that about?
Actually, me and my cousin came up with the name, and it's just a bunch of dorks getting together, and it's just everybody's a dork in their own way.
Yeah.
So it's,
especially Eddie Deezen.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And it sounded
Thank you, Barry. I was the beginning sequence. I just want to say Tom Kenny's a great friend of mine. SpongeBob. I've done several SpongeBobs, and we did a show called Dexter's Lab together. He's one of the nice guys, and I'll tell you some trivia about him. He's a Shemp man. He thinks Shemp is funnier than Curly.
Oh,
my friend Tom. Shemp is his favorite stooge. Yeah.
Wow. Very rarely do you hear someone admit that in public.
Yes. I'll give you one more and then go on with the show. Alex Trebek was that way. Alex Trebek likes Shemp better than Curly.
And Eddie, Nick Santamaria likes Shemp.
Is that right?
Yeah, Nick Santamaria is a dear friend.
Okay, I didn't know that.
He originated the role of the genie in California, Disney's California Adventures, Aladdin. Nick. And listen. He'd be a great guest, wouldn't he, Eddie? Wouldn't he?
Absolutely. Nick is wonderful, nicest guy, and full of personality. Yeah.
Nice.
We tend to have that a lot on this show. Lots of folks with lots of personality. So, we're glad you guys are helping us continue that tradition.
I have no idea what it means, Jamie. I have not. The three of us, personality.
I met Tom Kenny at a Comic-Con once, and he was sitting next to Bob, whose last name I can never say the right way. And Tom Kenny had a line like out the door. So SpongeBob had a line, and Patrick had no one in his line. So I said, "Where's your line? You're the funny one." And Tom Kenny was signing an autograph and stopped and looked at me and went, "You're right. He is the funny one.
Yeah.
So yeah, he seemed like a really cool guy, Tom.
Super nice guy, wonderful guy.
So I just want to butt in here for a second. We got a ton of people watching. So if you have any questions for our most amazing guests, just post them in the comments and I'll do my best to get to them. But I know we have a ton of questions here as well. Who would like to kick it off on our side?
Well, I'll go first because, this, like I said off the air, and Eddie, unfortunately, you missed this because you hadn't quite joined yet. But I'm going into this interview having seen the movie once, and it was last night. So
Grease?
I had never seen the film before.
You're kidding. I've met in the 40 years I've met maybe 12 people. All the millions of people I've met who have never seen Grease. Everybody's seen it.
Well, I have now. So that does count. And I just turned 40 last week, so that's like right in the sweet spot there. So that works out well. So my question was,
you seem like a super nice guy, but get a light.
You know what's funny is when I saw you, I was like, man, where do I know it? I'm like, all right, that's the dude from Critters, and I love that movie.
No, War Games.
We've seen Critters. We haven't seen Grease.
Potato Head.
Critters. I miss Matthew. I missed DiCaprio by one movie. I did Critters 2, and Leonardo DiCaprio's first film was Critters 3. I missed my one film.
Very close, though. Very close.
Yeah.
So my question is, what was it like getting ready for this role? Because you guys do there's like a lot of acrobatics involved in this, like a lot of for lack of a better term, stunt work that you guys had to perform. And for Eddie separately, how many takes did it take for you to get Sid Caesar with the pie?
Okay.
Who wants to start?
I'll start. The Sid Caesar one, I think I did. I would guess 3 takes. I thought you were going to go into the question I've been getting for 40 years. I've been asked 20,000 times, how many takes did you do with the pie where Barry hits me with the pie? I thought that's what you're going to say. Barry, if I remember, it was about 3 takes we did, Barry, on that one. That's why and everybody asked me, what kind of pie was it?
Let me remind you. I have a little bit of a hero complex sometimes. And I want to be the person who has saved the day. So when that sequence came up, of course, the way they shoot it, of course, you see Eddie throw the pie, and then you cut to Sid getting hit by the pie. It's a medium close-up of him being hit. But in reality, it is not Eddie that has thrown the pie from that distance and actually hit Sid. Yes. So what they wanted somebody to do was stand off to the camera left of Sid's right, pretty close. I would say about maybe 3 feet away, and throw the pie as though it has been, thrown by Eddie from many feet away. So, hey, I'll do it. I can do it. So they had a couple of pies lined up. They rolled just in case I missed once. And I was pretty close. I knew I could do this, not knowing that there really is an art to it. And they yelled action. I picked up the one pie, thwack, I miss him. I picked up another one, thwack, I miss him. I go for a third one, and then they stop me because they only had like 3 or 4 pies. This guy can't do it. Let's get a stunt person or a grip. And that person picked up the pie and got him in the first shot. So I wasted like 2 or 3 pies before they stopped me. I was a little embarrassed, to say the least.
Well, that's why I was asking, because it's not like throwing a baseball or a football. Like you're throwing something with no aerodynamic qualities whatsoever. The largest surface area. Yes. And you're trying to. Yeah, it's difficult. That's why I was kind of curious, because that's not easy to do.
No, I remember throwing it. They did take of me throwing, like Barry said, and I remember going way off to the left when I moved. Barry's right. I didn't even come close. Barry and I are both huge Three Stooges fans. And back to the Stooges. That's what they did with the Stooges. Not everybody can throw a pie, but Mo Howard was the greatest pie thrower in history. So the other takes, you'll see another guy throw it. But Mo threw most of those pies you'll see hitting people. It's all Mo Howard throwing it.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe that.
Great piece of
I believe that. Yeah, that seems like something Mo would be good at.
Yeah.
Now, often though, because I've done this on stage, they're not really pies. In fact, the best thing to do is to throw a pie pan with shaving cream. because especially on stage, because it gets all sticky. I did a summer of the Pittsburgh Park Players, and we had pie throwing in this mime circus that we did, or some such thing, and it was much easier to remove the shaving cream than sticky, gooey whipped cream. So you just have to keep your mouth closed because you get a mouthful of shaving cream. That ain't fun. But so, and there is definitely no aerodynamics there because you got a pie tin with very lightweight shaving cream in it.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is like, I'm sure that wasn't a real pie because you're not trying to kill Sid Caesar.
Right. No, these were real.
So there's
pies.
no weight to it.
No, these were real pies. It wasn't.
We threw them, But
yeah,
Barry, you hit me with whipped cream, right?
It might have been with you. I might have just hit you with whipped cream, but that was a real pie that hit Sid.
Right.
It had to have some weight, and when it exploded on his face, you needed to see some of those. And I think you do see some of the pie crust.
Right. So you got my only question out of the way. I may as well get out of here. That's my scene in Greece. Get over with the first 5 minutes. See you, Bear. See you, Jamie.
Hey, take care, buddy. Don't shave. It's very sexy. Jamie, tell him about the part of that other question.
I can tell you. Yes, thank you, Barry. Yeah, well, we had the best preparation you could have in terms of rehearsal, because Barry's experience is a little different than mine, but I played the role of Jan on Broadway before I did the movie, so that I had actually played the character 8 times a week, but it was 7 years before we did the movie. But Pat Birch was the choreographer of both the stage play and the movie, and it was very simple. It was, I knew what it was like to be a greaser. I was a greaser already the first day of rehearsal, and knew all the songs. There were adjustments. There were some new songs, but we had relationships with each other. A lot of us before that. Barry can tell you about his situation, but I had done the show, so I really was sort of already Jan when I hit the set. I knew a lot about it. But we were given 3 weeks of, I think it wasn't 3 weeks of rehearsal to work on specifically the musical numbers and the dance numbers. And I was very lucky because my partner, Kelly Ward, is a sensational dancer. He could do things that I have only seen Gene Kelly do. And you never see that in Greece. But I got to dance with him, which was just great. And that's what we did. We did a lot of rehearsal for 3 weeks before we even shot on the musical numbers.
Can I ask Jamie a question? Can I interject Jamie a question?
Go for it.
Jamie, the brush up. I know you invented that. Did that come from the stage show, or did you invent it for the movie?
No, it didn't come from. Thanks for asking. What happened is that there was, in the stage play, there was a joke. There was a line. It was the character who was Putsy in the movie was called Roger in the play, but he was Jan's boyfriend, and Jan was, wanted to please him, and she tells this story about Roger. You should stop drinking so much Coke. I heard about this guy who drank too much Coca-Cola. Oh no, they put his tooth in a glass of Coke and they left it overnight and the thing rotted away. And Roger would say to Jan, "No shit, Bucky Beaver." And I kind of have the prominent teeth to be able to play that line, so that when he would say Bucky Beaver, I would look and I kind of stick my teeth out like, "What? How could you say that?" And get a laugh, and anything for a laugh, So when we were doing the movie, there was a point at which we looked at the stuff that had worked on in the Broadway show that wasn't in the movie, wasn't going to be in the movie. And I said, so Bucky Beaver was in my mind from having been in the play. But the opening line of that scene, the pajama party scene, was for Jan. But the line was really didn't do anything. The line was, we're watching TV and Jan says, "Look at what Loretta Young is wearing." And I thought, there's nothing musical about it. I was wishing I had a song. there was nothing really musical about it. And I thought a lot of people aren't going to remember Loretta Young. I thought this is a good place for the beaver. And so Randall liked the idea. And because it was Paramount Pictures, we could go to the property department. And the next thing we knew, they had one of the original Bucky Beaver commercials for Ipana from the 50s. So I practiced with it and a monitor in the corner. And Randall said, do it for the girls. And if they like it, it goes in. And so I brush for the girls. And they all laughed. And Dinah threw the pillow just like she does in the movie. And Randall said, okay, if they like it, let's leave it in. And that's how Brusha got in there.
Oh, cool.
Great story.
That's awesome.
May I interject and say that first of all, when Ray DeMattis, who was our Roger on tour, and then I think Ray did it in New York at some point too, delivered that line better than anybody that that played Roger. No shit, Bucky Beaver, and it got a huge laugh, and of course your reaction, Jamie. But interesting that Jamie says that the role of Putsy was really the role of Roger in the movie, when in fact, and it's interesting that you describe it that way, Jamie. Putsy from the movie in the play is really embodied in the character of Doody. He's Doody is the wide-eyed wonder,
Right.
And the role of Roger was really embodied by Michael Tucci's Sonny in the movie.
Yeah,
and what I'm doing as Doody is really Sonny from the play. It's a little convoluted. They like the name Putsy, and it kind of conjungered things up. So that's how I've always described that. Interesting to hear you say that Putsy, but that's because you guys were teamed up in the movie. Putsy and Jan.
They were my boyfriends.
Right.
I just want to ask before we get, and I forget, you said you were in the Broadway. Were you in the Broadway play when Jeff Conway was Danny Zuko?
Jeff Conway was covering Danny Zuko part of the time. I definitely did the show with Jeffrey playing Danny. Barry Bostwick was playing Danny when I was in the very beginning of the run. And it was Barry Bostwick, but Jeffrey covered a number of the roles, and I did play it with him doing that part. Also, who else was the understudy for? They would have two understudies to cover all the boys, and one of the understudies was Richard Gere, and so he played Danny Zuko one night. And I remember that one because I didn't know him very well at that point. Got to know him better later, but I remember turning, because they do what they call a put-in rehearsal on Broadway when they're putting somebody in for that night, and you go in a little bit early and you rehearse some of the numbers so that the spacing is right. And in Grease, it's making sure the person who's going to flip you knows how to lift you and flip you. But anyway, I remember looking around, and Richard was so different than Jeffrey or John or Barry or any other one, and I thought, gee, this guy's kind of like James Dean. He's kind of like a movie star. But anyway, Jeffrey sometimes played the role on Broadway when I was there, and I knew Jeffrey very well before we ever even did the show, because we shared the same manager, Barry Bostwick.
Oh, Jamie just froze. She just froze. So I'll pick up where she's left off, if you don't mind.
Good. Totally.
Jeffrey and I grew up together in Manhattan. So I knew him, way before this. And he was Danny Zuko. He was kind of the bad boy we all wanted to be. And the genesis of my involvement with Grease was the first national company of the tour. And Jeffrey at that point was playing Zuko on the road. And a buddy of mine who understudied him, who I had worked with that previous summer of 72 and fall of 72 with the Chicago Free Street Theater, had become the understudy on the tour. And I went back to finish my senior year of college at Carnegie Mellon University. And when the show came through Pittsburgh, my friend John Lansing, who's a famous fiction writer today, and who was also a writer and producer on Walker, Texas Ranger, called me when they came to Pittsburgh and said, hey, you got to come down and see this show. Now, to preface this, a bunch of my friends who had gone to school with a fellow named Michael Lembeck out in California and who transferred to Pittsburgh, kept telling me how much that I reminded them of their friend Michael Lembeck. So when I went down to see the show that John Lansing had invited me to see, this Grease show that Jeffrey was playing Zuko in, this kid, Michael Lembeck, comes walking out on stage, and he comes out backwards. The character of Sonny comes out backwards and turns around with the line, son of a bitch, I got old lady Lynch for English again. She hates my guts. And when he turns around, I look at this guy, and it looks like me. It was like watching myself on. So I got on the phone with my agent the following day, said, you got to get me an audition for this, which they did, and I flew back to New York for a general audition. A couple of weeks later, I get a call. Michael Lembeck has broken his ankle at the end of the first act during We Go Together, and they wanted me to come into New York for a callback, which I did, and they wanted me to go immediately up to Toronto to understudy the understudy, basically, in that role of Sonny, which I couldn't do because I had 2 weeks of senior year to finish. So they let me go back to Carnegie to finish the 2 weeks. Then they flew me up to Detroit again with Jeffrey playing Zuko. And let me just say that he was the first Zuko I ever saw play it. And to this day, with all respect to John and Barry, and I adore the work of both of those men, Jeffrey was Danny Zuko. And I got to play it with him once because they let me go on one time before Michael Lembeck came back. Subsequently, when the tour came to California, Michael left and they called me back up and they said, we want you to finish the tour, which I did. I did the last 10 months, 8 in Chicago and then 2 in Toronto before we finished. I never did it on Broadway, but certainly the national tour and Jamie's experience with it. Michael Tucci, who plays Sonny in the movie, also, he was our understudy on tour for a while. And then he did it in New York for about 30 seconds. And of course, Carol Culver, who was our dance captain and was played Patty Simcox on the road, was our dance. She was an assistant to Pat Birch, wasn't she, along with Tommy Smith? Is that correct, Jamie?
Yes, she was one of the dancers.
Yeah, one of the core dancers. So they used as many of us as they could, even though when the call went out to cast it, we were told that none of the people from the stage show were going to be considered. And that did not happen to be the case, ultimately.
Thank you for sharing. Seriously, I'm 56 years old and I've been trying to become an actor for my whole life. And it's people like you who inspire me. And when someone like Jeff passes away, to most normal people, they're like, yeah, Jeff is gone. But to me, it leaves this hole because of the talents that he had that he could have still been doing. Robin Williams, I could go on and on with the people we've lost. So, I know he was your close friend and stuff. So to me, I just want to say, I'm sorry that he's gone because I know it probably affected you guys a lot. But thank you for sharing that story because a lot of people don't realize that he was Danny Zuko for a while. And then when the movie came out, since John was the big star, they put him in the role and gave Jeff Kanicki or whatever.
And
we did agree.
I think maybe
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jenny.
One of the hardest parts of that, I think, for Jeff was that the great thing that Kanicki had in the show was the song Grease Lightning was Kanicki's song.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that they were going to switch it out and make that Danny's song until just not too long before that. And I thought that Jeff had to be shaken by that because
and he was.
That was a great, it's such a great number. And even if you're not Danny Zuko, if you get to do Grease Lightning, but it was taken away and it was given to John, and Jeff still, played the hell out of the role. And those interjections, I'll get the money, I'll kill whatever he said. That was not in the original score. They let him sing that. He has 2 of those interjections. What were you going to say, Eddie?
I was going to say, talking about Jeffy. First of all, when we did Grease, it was my first film. Jamie and Barry were seasoned veterans. My experience was I'd done the Gong Show. I gonged on the Gong Show with Chuck Barris. That was all I'd ever done before Grease. I was such a naive, ignorant schmendrick. I didn't know what I was doing. But the whole cast was so lovely. To this day, the Grease cast is the nicest cast I've ever worked with. They were just, everybody was wonderful. The crew was wonderful. The dancers were wonderful. Jeffy was the only guy that scared me. I was just terrified of the guy. And everybody else would say, hi, Eddie, hi, Eugene. Never talked to Jeff. Jeff tried to get me laid once. What were you doing? He tried to call a hooker and get me laid. I was scared out of my wits. I was green at the line, and I remember hiding in my dressing room. I was so scared. But anyway, to move on to that, years later, Jeff, if you look, Jeff is like strapping Adonis. He's like this male animal, this gorgeous male animal. And then this is like maybe like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Barry Pearl, who's the greatest guy in the world, he's done countless stories like this, but I'll just tell you one. Barry arranged for us all to go to Jeff. Jeff was like in this home with all these old people, like these 90-year-old people, and was in a wheelchair. And Barry arranged for us all to go visit him. And Barry ordered corned beef sandwiches and sodas, and we all sat around for hours and we just talked and reminisced. And I remember wheeling Jeff around. I wanted to cry, because this guy, this strapping guy, but he was hunched over in a wheelchair. And I would wheel him around the halls. Anyway, later on after that, even in his last days, Jeffy and I would do signing shows together. Barry, I always call Barry my older brother because Barry's like my older brother, but Jeff was like an older brother to me. We became very, very close. We did maybe 10 shows together, just Jeff and I. And the girl, he was all hunched over and gnarly looking, but the girls were still swooning over him. The girls were seeing Kaniki and giggling, but Jeff was a different guy. And he watched out for me. This is so primitive, but in those days I charged $5 a picture. And Jeff's going, what are you doing? That's ridiculous. You'd raise it to $15, and Jeff would get my price up and on. We just had a lot of good times. He was a lovely guy. But when we did Grease, I was scared, and then we got to be at the end. I just loved the guy so much. We became very close.
Yeah, I know that he loved you. He loved you, Eddie.
Well, thank you, Bear.
True.
That's awesome to hear.
May I just say, I got to point this out. Jamie, you look spectacular. Your hair is just beautiful.
Agreed.
Now?
Yes, now. I mean, you can tell about the fact that you were gray when you were born, but your hair is spectacular.
It's true.
Really.
When we did Grease, you guys know that I had black hair, right? Black bangs and ponytails like that.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was all dyed. And I had white hair already. That was not as white as it is today, but it was very white. And so right down the middle where Jan had a part there, would part like that. And the part would grow in white. So it would grow in like a skunk with black hair here and white down the middle. So the hairstylist on the show had a crayon. It was like a hair color crayon. I would color in the part dark. So because you can't have a high school kid with gray roots,
Yeah.
Well, I was a person who, as a high school kid, did have gray hair. I had white hair, but thank you for the compliment for today.
Oh, it's only true. It's only true. I have a question. I saw somebody said, "Can I work below the line with you, Barry?" I don't know what that means. There we go. That's Kim Louisa. If I'm not pronouncing that correctly, forgive me. Can I work below the line with you, Barry? I don't understand what below the line means. So if you can explain that, I can answer that. And somebody else asked, did we know, and it's a classic question, did we know that Grease was going to be the hit?
Yeah.
It came. No. Nobody has that crystal ball, with any project. I mean, you guys Jamie and Eddie, you can speak to the time that we had as being glorious and wonderful, but did we know? We didn't know. Nobody knew.
This is how I see it, Barry. I'm kind of like, I love Barry. He's the greatest guy in the world. When I've seen me and other people when they do their first film, I've seen kind of different Barry. I think when you do your first film, you go, hey, I'm in the movies. This is going to be, Gone with the Wind. This is going to be On the Waterfront. So I kind of, when we went in, and John was so huge at this time. This was after Saturday Night Fever. Nobody is comparable. John at this time was like a combination of Ryan Gosling, George Clooney, and Brad Pitt all rolled into one. That's how big a star he was. So I figured, wait, I'm in this movie, John Travolta. It's pretty cool. These guys are all good dancers. So I thought it was going to be a hit. Not to sound arrogant, but I did think it was going to be a big hit there. And I did.
Wow. You're the first person.
But I'll tell you that if you could roll back, which none of you are probably old enough to be able to, but if you can roll back to those years, what it meant to have a hit movie meant that it would stay in the movie theater for 2 weeks.
Right.
And that was it. I mean, there were maybe 3 TV channels, so that they didn't have. It wasn't like you could. Oh, let's see whether it's on
the streaming
Netflix.
Yeah.
No
computers, no DVDs. It was just exactly what Jamie said.
No VHS.
Believe me, I did so many of these. You just do movies and they were gone in a week and they just vanished. That was all it was. Yeah.
So
now at least they go to video, you know. Yeah.
We could not even have dreamed that one day people would be watching it in their own house. I mean, now we meet people who know all the lines better than we ever did, you know, because they've seen it over and over and over again. But there was no such thing as seeing something over and over again.
Yeah. I thought, to get into the question, I thought it would be a hit. But like Jamie says, I didn't know to this extent. I always think, I maintain, and I think this is fair evaluation. Grease is one of probably the 5 most popular films of all time. I say, you have to go with Wizard of Oz would have to be number 1. And then you kind of go down, maybe Grease is like Star Wars or something like that. But I've heard, you guys are probably the same. I've heard probably 1,000 people say, this is my favorite movie of all time. They don't say I like it, but Grease is my favorite movie of all time. I've got 3 girls who broke their tapes. They go, I played Grease so many times, I broke the tape.
Yeah.
3 girls said that. Do you know how many times you have to play a film to break the tape?
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. It wasn't until really our 10th anniversary that we realized that it became the cult classic. Because, you know, when it was first released, the reviews were not that great, if you recall. It was way down the line that people kind of caught on and thought, well, this speaks to my generation. And the next generation said, this speaks to my generation. And then it became what it became.
It's kind of like Rebel Without a Cause. It's like the eternal high school experience.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
You know, to kind of touch on what you guys are saying, like I said, I just watched this movie for the first time last night, and I knew, so much about it already, never having seen it. Yeah. And there was still so much that's in like the cultural zeitgeist that, it's just this thing Wizard of Oz, there's no place like home. I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. Like all of these things are just synonymous with culture, about Grease Lightning, about, Tell Me More, like so much about it, that, like I was talking with Ashes last night. I'm like, don't they like get in a car and drive off into the sky at the end of the movie? Like, what's that about? Like, and I knew that, and I'd never seen the film. Yeah. Like,
we still
Danny
don't know.
Danny and Sandy are part of the American lexicon. It's like, Romeo and Juliet, Anthony and Cleopatra, Danny and Sandy. And everybody will know who Danny and Sandy is.
Right. That's right.
In the late 70s, early 80s, my sister had a yellow 10-speed Swin. And when she got her license, I took over her bike. And on the back was one of those bicycle racks where you pull up the little thing and you can put stuff in it. Down. I would bungee cord a 1-speaker cassette deck on that thing and drive all over my hometown of Waterbury, Vermont, with the Grease soundtrack playing, singing these songs as loud as I possibly could. And eventually the tape went because it was so like going over bumps and stuff. And here's this kid, I'm 15, 16, 17, whatever, just driving his bike through town with, the Grease soundtrack playing. So, yeah, I wore my cassette out. And the first time I owned Grease was on a RCA Selectavision disc, if you remember those. They came in a little plastic case, and you slid them into the machine, pulled a little plastic thing out. It was like a record or whatever. I used to watch Grease all the time. So, there's a lot of movies that are out there, Jaws, Star Wars, Grease, It's a Wonderful Life, Wizard of Oz, that are just movies that you have to see. And if you haven't seen them until last night,
but I have seen it.
I'll tell you something that made me very proud, because I know that a lot of people see it and love it, and it's to be able to give people laughs, to be able to make people happy, to make people have a good time. That's good enough. I don't need more than that. But I remember that when 9/11 happened, there was an article in the New York Times afterward, because if you remember, nobody in New York knew whether that was going to happen again or why it happened or how it happened. So there was high anxiety in New York City. And they checked and found out, they said, what do you do for the anxiety? And people watched movies, and Grease was one. I don't remember the other two. There were 3 movies that everybody in New York was watching so that they could deal with the anxiety of the moment of that terrorist attack. And so, sometimes it's like, well, we just made him laugh, and that's great. But I actually think it's therapeutic to laugh, and I think that it's a healing and a healthy thing. This movie that we made, and that just made me very proud that it was able to help people through a tough time.
That's a great story.
It happens in an individual basis. I know we all hear that. You were my best friend in high school. Nobody else liked me, but I knew Jan would like me. That's very touching. But when you realize, wow, in the face of a terrorist attack, we were able to be helpful. That's pretty cool.
That's a very cool piece of information. Great piece of trivia.
We had several questions come in, and also Kim said it means behind the camera. So there were several questions for Jamie, but I'm going to put this one up to the front because this is my wife. She's asking, what was your favorite song?
My favorite song in the show, I think it's Summer Nights. I think Summer Nights I loved the number. I loved everything about it. It was in both the play and in the movie. I had a solo line in it. That was really nice. And I think that it really was the most fun number for me.
Nice. What about you, Barry?
I used to say Grease Lightning, but I loved Jamie's answer about Summer Nights also because for the longest time I thought I had, I do have a line in the song too that I thought was just mine. And it was only in the last year or so that I realized that Kelly sings it too. Putsy, did you get very far? Did you get very far? He's singing it with me. But I guess during that time, I'm only looking at myself. So we share that line. So I probably Summer Nights. And in the play, it was Mooning, which is in the movie, but it's played, Shannon plays it in the background, in the movie. But in the play, that was my favorite number. And I love all the music. But I guess you're right, Jamie. Summer Nights, because we were all in it, and it kicks the movie off. And that ending, that split screen, which was something that they like, not that they invented it, but they did it in kind of a Mickey Mouse way. They do it computer graphically now, but the way they did it back then was kind of with spit and mud, and it just worked so well. So yeah, I would say Summer Nights.
Nice.
Eddie.
It's a slam dunk for me. The only number I sang in was We Go Together. I was in that group and we were all singing. So that's the only one. My favorite scene in the movie, my favorite number unequivocally is Grease Lightning. I've seen Grease probably 100 times, and every time I wait for that number, and every time I find it exhilarating. I love Grease Lightning.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice.
I would. You're the one that I want is really a great tune, but you'd be surprised to know that though you see us singing, that's not us singing. Remember, they brought that number out to us during the carnival sequence, and the original ending number in the play was All Choked Up, which was a play on All Shook Up. That number, and I love that number, though nobody really cared for it very much because I love the shooby doo up shooby doo that the guys would sing in the background and the girls had their backup thing. So we didn't use that in the film, and instead they chose John Ferrara wrote "You're the One That I Want," and they brought it out to us on the set where we had rehearsed for 3 weeks all the numbers and the dances and a lot of the scenes that were going to be shot 3 weeks later, if you will. This we hadn't rehearsed, and Pat Birch choreographed it on the spot. We heard it on the spot, and all we had to sing is "You're the one, honey." So that was easy to do. but they had pre-recorded that, as they pre-recorded all the musical numbers to which we sang back to. We lip synced basically back to it. But that number that's not us, and I really dug that number, Eddie, when I first heard that. So that's another one of my favorites, even though we're really not, singing on it. Sorry.
No worries.
It's my agent saying, they got me a job as a janitor. What? Never mind. It's not.
Hey, why'd you hang up on me?
I thought it was somebody. I thought it was somebody demanding royalties.
Michael Lembeck, the guy that did Sunny on the Road, used to say when a phone rang, he would just say, "Hey, if that's my agent, tell him to hold out for scale."
We haven't heard from Phil. Phil, did you have any questions for our awesome guests?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that all the questions that I have already been asked hundreds of times, but did you guys feel the nostalgia with the car and the outfits and all that? What was it? Was it like cosplaying today, or was it more to you guys when you actually filmed the film?
Again, did we feel nostalgic doing the?
Yeah. Obviously, it's a period piece, and one of its the things that people love about the film is it's a nostalgia, an era that people used to love, with the cars, my Boston accent, automobiles, the Elvis, the leather jackets, all those things, the types of dresses. Did you guys feel that nostalgia when you were doing it, or was it more just a fun acting job for you folks?
Jamie, why don't you tell the story that Doody always tells about staying in character and such? Do you know what I'm trying? I don't fully remember that.
Go ahead. I think what you're talking about is that we really were the characters while we were on set. We liked our Pink Ladies jackets because we were Pink Ladies, not because it harkened back really, but because it's who we were. Right? Is this what you mean, Barry?
Well, that's a good take on it, because that's how I felt. Doody remembers that we all stayed in character and improvised and such. I don't remember that as well.
Yes.
But as you say, Jamie, I think that donning those jackets and those pants and that was just us. It just gave us a sense, certainly a sense of the period. And I remember I had an acting teacher, that Morty Lawner, may he rest in peace, that would say the last piece that you add to this puzzle before you walk on the stage is that costume, and you look in the mirror and boom, there it is. There you become that. And certainly in period pieces, I think that does happen a lot. And I kind of felt that way, scooching my jean pants down with my thumbs in the pocket, as Alan Carr, may he rest in peace, would tell us to do. So those things just gave a sense, a flavor of the times. I don't know necessarily that I was feeling nostalgic. I was feeling the part, as Jamie says. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We would improvise. We would play around like we really were like those people. I mean, our personalities were very close to what we were playing, and our relationships were very much close to the ones that we were playing too. So it didn't feel like we were going back to a different time. It's different when you're playing a character who has an accent. That really takes you to another time. But we weren't using accents. And I think the fact that, as I said before, the fact that we had played these roles before, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, it's a poodle skirt. We knew it was going to be a poodle skirt. That's what it was. I remember kind of as they bring the cars in, it would be like, wow, that's a cool one. It's turquoise and white and black. And, it was, that looks like the time.
And when Olivia comes out in those tight pants, it was, that was, that sent us all reeling, the men and the women, I think, at that point.
I just remembered when I was in 7th or 8th grade, Grease had not only an impact just on people in general in school, but my math teacher had a picture on the door of John Travolta with a little bubble coming out of his mouth, and it said, "Math is the word." So like, yeah, so even that was like, how can we use this movie to get our kids to do something or whatever? And this is one of my prized possessions, the Grease photo novel.
Yeah,
very cool.
Which are going for like $500 or something on eBay now. But yeah, it became part of pop culture, you know, when I was growing up, and I think it really still is today. Like you said, this generation discovers it and says, "Oh, I can identify with it." I have two daughters who are 23 and 18, and then a stepdaughter who I forget how she's like 30 something, but they all grew up watching Grease. So it's, you know, and when my kids were growing up, I bought them this game, which is for the, you know, Xbox, which is like some Grease dance along thing. So it's always there. It's a movie that will, you know, live on well past us. I mean, it really will. And you guys did something that we're all going to enjoy for many, many, many years to come. And
What's that Grease Dance-a-thon thing that you just held up there?
So it's an Xbox game, and you have to like do all this. I haven't played it in a long time, but my kids loved it. So you'd have to like tighten bolts or do these dance moves or whatever, and you score these points. But my kids who are 23 and 18 played this like all the time when they were like, you know, 5 to 10 years old or whatever. So again,
do we appear in that at all?
There's cartoon like kind of, you know, pictures that are representing some of the characters, but I think they draw them just a little different so that they don't have to pay you guys money.
That's right.
Tell us about it. Yeah, we're all familiar with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamie knew exactly where I was going. I think Eddie.
Yeah.
Barry's our biggest protector in that way.
Yes, unequivocally. Barry's at least a half a dozen times. The suits didn't want to pay us, and Barry's gone in and taken on the suits and got us money. At least a half a dozen times, more like 10 times.
Yeah, that's why I don't work anymore.
We had a couple questions come in for Jamie, and I think Ash has had a question as well. But real quick for Jamie, how many times have you sung the Ipana song, and did you get a deal with Ipana?
No, you know, not at all. No. I do, you know, I'll do it. People will say, "Would you do it?" It's like the easiest thing in the world to do. If I can make people happy by going, "Brusha, brusha, brusha," it's so easy, you know, and it makes people happy. And so I probably have done it hundreds of times now. And I wish that I had a deal. You know what I wanted to do, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. I really thought I should be able to get my dentistry work done.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm happy to say, you know, "Oh, do you like my teeth?"
Yes.
Look at them. They still look pretty good. Well, that's
they do. They're beautiful.
Yeah, they are.
But oh, thank you. But unfortunately, I've had to pay the dentist.
Haven't we all?
I think Ash should. I sounded like you tried to chime in there.
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions. My first question is for Barry. The Blue Moon scene, was that really you guys?
Yeah, that was before Botox was invented, so we could. Yes, that's us. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how much of the because there's a lot happening in the background between interaction, but you know, between the characters and stuff. How much of that was ad-libbed?
A lot of what you see came from improvisation. I do remember one thing though that a couple of things that I threw in personally when I guess Kenickie is working under the car, right? And we are in the background about to come under the car with the bumper, right? And the button of the scene is the three of us, Sonny, Doody, and Putsy, holding onto the bumper, about to put it on the car. And I guess Michael asks, "Where did you get this car?" And we turn and we say, "Your mother's." Well, just prior to that, getting to that back end of the car, as we were coming through underneath the car with Kenickie lying underneath there, Jeff said something like, "Give me a break," and in the moment I said, "We'll work on the breaks later." That was improvised. Me taking out the squirt gun when Kinnicky pulled out the knife, that was improvised. Even though before principal photography, the prop guy said, "Come in." He brought Michael and Kelly and I into his prop truck and said, "Take whatever you want that would help to define your character." Michael took the rabbit's foot, Kelly took a medallion, and I took the squirt gun. And you see that squirt gun all over the place. And in there, when Kinnicky brandishes the knife and I come up with the squirt gun, that was improvised and something that got a laugh. But we and you guys, Jamie and Eddie, you can talk to this idea that we improvise before going in. In order to bring some of the stage dialogue and such into the piece, and also the nyet, 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 brr, nyet, nyet, all of that stuff was improvised before we shot it before the camera. So I hope that answers your question. But you guys want to speak to how we infused stuff with the stage stuff that we did, especially you,
Well,
Jamie.
I know that you'll remember this, Barry. I don't know whether you would remember this, Eddie, but those of us who had done the show there were things about the movie that we were not sure would work because the show worked. The play on Broadway worked. There was a point at which it became the longest running Broadway show of all time. It has since been, there's another one since then, but it was we knew things that worked. And the characters originally were real people from Chicago, Illinois. The play was first done in a basement in a church. Jim Jacobs and Warren Casey, the guys who wrote it about people they knew from their neighborhood. There was a real guy named Danny Zuko. These names were real, and so it was Chicago sort of street kids of Chicago, and then by the time we got to do it in New York, it was a very urban feeling to these kids. It didn't have any sense of California. It was like, we're going to have palm trees. This is not Greece. Why Greece is not, we didn't think of Greece being really in California or it just a whole other feel, very cleaned up. We were really looked a lot more pastel in the movie version. It was less rough around the edges, I would say. And it also was less, the language was cleaned up. It was just a cleaner version for Hollywood. And I remember that. I remember thinking that as we made that transition, it's like, is this really going to work? Is this kind of vanilla version of it when it was, like a rainbow? Now it's going to be a vanilla. And so we really didn't know whether that was going to work at the time, but I forget what I was headed toward telling you.
Well, the whole improvisation thing, bringing.
Yeah. So it was. So we already had these characters. We already knew who they were. We were already playing like those characters, and we had these relationships already. So. It was like we would play around. We all had very high energy, and we were a very upbeat crowd. And so we would, what we would say when I was in high school, hack around. We would hack around until it was time to shoot. It wasn't like we were there preparing in our trailers to do the job. We were running around and playing jokes on each other and really being the characters full time. And I would say that's the way that's sort of the way that we improvised our way into it. It wasn't like on camera was a lot different than it was off camera, I would say.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. Somebody had asked about, I guess it was again, Lucio, about the flying sequence in Beauty School Dropout. Do you see that there, Leo?
Yeah.
The Flying Angel. That was, I had always wanted to fly in a project, excuse me, whether it was on the stage or on the screen or TV. And finally, we got the chance to do it, but it wasn't flying by Foy, which is the company one of the companies, that's the premier company that does that kind of thing. And they rigged up these blue jeans with wool inside and hung us up there. We were hanging around literally all day. It was extremely uncomfortable. It wasn't anything like those professional rigs were, because they want to spend that kind of money with, just us flying across and Michael just coming down and back up again. So it was a very uncomfortable situation. My dreams were not as fulfilled as I wanted them to be. But it was nevertheless, it's kind of cool when you see us flying across. But it was...
that number was painful for the girls, too, to a certain extent.
Because you were wearing those headdresses, right?
Yeah, we were wearing the headdresses that were really high. I recently saw the little dress that I was wearing. I couldn't believe it was just like a tiny little flimsy thing. But it was because we were also in heels, which was not something that we wore in the rest of the show. I always had shoes that were easy to dance in. And they put, I don't know if you've ever done this, where they put a thing over your shoe so that you don't make a mark on the floor, like if you're going to look at a house or something. We had these things on over our high heels because they didn't want to get that pristine white set, a spot on it. And those staircases, there was no rail or anything like that. So that we were, coming down, and none of us really were showgirls, really. But we had to kind of come down with our heads high, acting like showgirls. And it felt like you could have gone right off the side very easily. And this floor was slippery, especially with these. Do you remember those things, Barry? Probably not.
Yeah.
But
no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
They're blue and papery that you put on.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Anytime we have a plumber.
It was not a comfortable number to do. That was not. It wasn't comfortable, but we were all really impressed to be working with Frankie Avalon, because he had been.
That's fair.
He was such a favorite, and I'm old enough that I can remember the 50s. I was little kid. I was little, but I remembered it. And, like a lot of kids, I was a kid who wanted to think I was a teenager when I was a little kid. And so it was like, we get to be, excuse me, we get to be with Frankie.
Sneeze to the truth.
He really was like a teen angel to us. And Doody was just like gaga, And it was fun, but it felt a little dangerous and uncomfortable, that particular number. And we weren't in character.
I had heard that Elvis had got offered the teen angel role.
Yeah, that was the original concept. Yeah, was Elvis. Yeah,
and he turned it down.
Yeah, and Jamie, tell him the great story about the last day of shooting involving Elvis. It's one of the great, incredible movies of all time.
Because I can't remember anything, Eddie.
Okay, this was the last day of shooting on Grease. Was August 16th, 1977. It's the scene where Jamie and the pink ladies are with Olivia in the room. What's the number they sang?
Look at me, I'm Sandra D.
Look at me, I'm Sandra D. And there's a part of that song you'll see they go, Elvis, don't swing your Elvis against me, or whatever they sing in that. That day, Elvis died. That's the day Elvis died. Was the last day of shooting on Grease. Right. It was 1,000,000-to-1 shot. That's exactly what happened. That was our last day.
Yes. And that's what she said. She says, Elvis, let me be. Keep that pelvis far from me.
Right.
And she looks up at the thing, and he did. He died.
Too weird. Too weird. My last day, by the way, was the carnival. So we were filming the carnival. My last day was August 2nd, 77. And Randall, the director, comes up to me. Eddie, can you get on? We had the spin around machine, one of these things. I get bad motion sickness. Eddie, can you get in the spin around machine to do it? Please, I call him Mr. Kleiser. Mr. Kleiser, I get real sick. Eddie, can you please, and Alan Parker, can you get on? We want you in the spin around. So, okay, that's my last day. I get on the spin around machine. They whip me around. Now, if you see the film Grease, you'll see the spin around machine. You'll see a bunch of blurs there. You cannot tell it's me from anybody. It could be anybody. But you'll see a bunch of blurs on the machine. Anyway, I get off the machine. I'm walking across the field to my dressing room. I threw up. I threw up in the middle of the field, heaved up all over. That was my last day on Grease. I threw up my guts, and I went in my dressing room.
I can't do those spin things either, Eddie. I didn't stand on
I
those.
can't stand them.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah. And it didn't even pay off. It was a payoff in the movie, but you just see this blur there. What do you mean?
There was an
They could have had a bunch of dummies there.
The black octopus ride.
Yeah.
And in between takes, or at some point, Michael and Kelly got me to go on that, and I said, "Yeah, but you got to stop it if I get crazed." I mean, I don't get that kind of sick, but I don't like that spinning or dipping down really fast. It takes my breath away. And they got me on this ride, and the thing kept spinning around and up and around. And I'm yelling to the guy who's operating, "Stop! Stop!" And they would not stop. That was not filmed, fortunately, because I was really embarrassed as well. But just that I can't take those kinds of rides. Well, didn't they? They wanted to put each of us on a ride during the "You're the One That I Want" number. And Kelly, was it Kelly and you that wound up on the spinning one, Jamie?
I was smart enough to figure that one out because people were coming and go, "Oh, I love this ride." It was like, I want the ride. We were on a thing that would go forward and back, and forward and back.
Yeah.
But it wasn't going up and down and around, Kelly and I. But you remember it was so hot. They were giving out salt pills like crazy, and there were people fainting.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you look at that fair on the school grounds, it looks like it's grass. That was all paint. That was all green paint that they had to spray over brown grass. It was hot there.
Let
And we
alone
had a
the
lot of
dance.
very hot days.
The dance scene in the auditorium. They couldn't open the windows because there were planes going by, so they didn't want the noise, and the windows had to stay sealed. It was 116 degrees in there. We were all dying. I think Michael went to the hospital.
Well, he went to the hospital
and fainted.
also because it was next to a meat processing plant.
Okay.
And, and Michael fainted and had
It was unbelievably hot in there. Yeah.
Also, somebody had asked about the race at the aqueduct, and it said characters got sick. Well, Randall Kleiser got sick. The first day of shooting down there in the riverbed, that water is contaminated, and it was hot out. He was wearing a pair of shorts, and he had a little cut on his calf, and he had gone through that water just like we all had, but we were all dressed properly, and he got that contaminated water in his little cut. And the following day came down with a very high temperature. They actually had to cancel shooting that day, and that was expensive for Paramount.
But
to cancel.
Barry, I want to remind you, you usually remember everything, and I don't remember things so well. But I remember that yes, Randall was walking through that little water, which is the LA River.
Right.
But with us, they wrapped our legs in saran wrap.
Saran wrap. That's right.
Unless it was a shot where they were going to see our legs.
Yeah.
So, and we also ran across a little wooden thing,
That's right.
We ran across it, but they were really careful keeping us from getting that dirty water out. Do you remember what they did to keep us cool? This is a nice thing for people to do. If you guys have ever heard of something called Sea Breeze, it's an astringent. It's it looks like the color, like pale blue, comes in a bottle. It's called Sea Breeze, and it's a cooling astringent. And they would have big tubs of cold ice water with ice in it, filled with Sea Breeze. And they had chamois cloth. And they would put the chamois cloth into the ice water of Sea Breeze, wring it out, and run it. I mean, maybe not the same for you guys because we were in dresses. And they would run it up your legs just to cool you down. They'd run these Sea Breeze covered chamois cloths up and down your legs because we were just, to keep us from fainting, I think.
Yeah, the Sea Breeze. In fact, Sea Breeze is an astringent. When I get a haircut and they take the straight razor and take the hair off my neck, they use Sea Breeze and I use witch hazel like that too. But Sea Breeze has a cooling agent, as you say. Well,
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I vaguely now that you're mentioning it. I remember them spraying us with the Sea Breeze, actually. But that little wooden plank that you're talking about, when you see us after he's won the race, and we're all running across that bit of, and this was after Randall had gotten sick. This is down the line where they knew that, and you're right, they would wrap us in the saran wrap. So when we're running across that riverbed, you see Jeff in these huge Doc Martens, looking very macho, tiptoeing across like he's a ballet dancer. It's tutu on him. It was hysterical. But when you watch it the next time, watch the way Jeff comes across that water.
I know we are running a little bit on time. We had a couple questions back, and I wanted to make sure Ashley gets all the questions she wanted in. What did you guys think of the sequel? Tony was asking.
Wait. Over the year, I was in this role. I was even less of a role than I had in Grease, which tells you something. But I'd say over the years, over the 40 years, I've met maybe a dozen people who said, I like Grease 2 better than the original Grease. And I always go, these are the people that like The Wiz better than The Wizard of Oz. I go, are you freaking serious? You're comparing Grease 2 to Grease? Are you kidding me? These guys like that better. So it was fun. I saw Michelle Pfeiffer. I met her on set. She was Marilyn Monroe gorgeous. She was drop dead gorgeous. And I just went up to her. I was mesmerized. I go, you're beautiful. And she goes, thank you. That was the extent of the time I talked to her. She was mesmerizingly beautiful. Yeah.
Jamie, sounded like you were going
to. We were offered, they asked us if we wanted to do it. I think all of us were asked. And I think we just, not you, Eddie, but I think I certainly knew that they could not replace what had been created the first time. It just couldn't be done because as you hear everything we're telling you about how this thing came together, it wasn't something that it came together based on the bones of the play that had worked, that the jokes already worked, that the relationships were established. To try to write that again, I just knew that it couldn't be the same thing. And when you've done something great, why would you want to do it? Do something that was lesser, which it felt like it would be. And I have to say, I felt that it was when I saw it. I didn't think it had the thing I think that Grease has that makes people continue to love it is not even just that it's funny and fun, but there is so much heart in that movie. And I think everybody who was in it is that way. We all loved each other. We all loved what we were doing. We loved that time in our lives. And there's so much, even though people are acting kind of crass and ridiculous, there is so much love and so much heart in it. And I think that was not there in the next movie.
I got it. I was on this, just to finish up on Grease 2. I knew it from the first day. Okay, the first day I got on the set of Grease 2. And Maxwell Caulfield was our lead guy. Super nice guy, but he was Maxwell Caulfield as opposed to John Travolta. So, Eddie, would you like to come into I can't do a British accent. I'm so unversatile. But Eddie, would you like to come into my dressing room? So I go in. He serves me tea and cookies. We're having tea and cookies together, and I'm thinking, oh Christ! He's the nicest guy in the world. I just go, this is so doomed. This guy trying to be Danny Zuko or trying to be Travolta. He's giving me tea and cookies, and we're drinking them and eating our little cookies together. And I said, this is going to go in the crapper. I go, there's no way this is going to work. And that's how it played out. I knew we were doomed from the first day.
Well, a couple of
that should just not be made.
A couple of weeks into the shooting, Alan Carr brought Jeff and Kelly and Michael and me. I don't know that John was there. Off to the side, we were shooting in one of the high schools, and it was like in their open air cafeteria, similar, I guess, to like Summer Nights. It might have been. I don't think it was that early on, but it was in a construct like that. And he said, "Listen, the suits upstairs at Paramount loved what they're seeing in the dailies so much that they've asked us to do a sequel." And what was going to happen was, at the end of Grease 1, when the carnival scene starts, it opens with Sonny, Doody, and Putsy. And I said, I can't believe that I flunked phys ed. And Putsy says, did we even take phys ed? And then we go over to the pie throwing. And Sid, as the coach, says, well, if you come to summer school, I said, how can you flunk us? He said, if you come to summer school, you can make it up. So the sequel was going to be called Summer School, and it was going to revolve around us all going to summer school. And that sounded like a cool idea. So we all were up for that, and the next thing you know, it became what it became. John pulled out, Olivia pulled out, and the next thing you know, we were no longer a part of that. But that was originally the idea that we set up at the end of the first movie, that we would all come back in summer school.
Wow.
You don't remember that, Jamie, at all?
I do. I do remember it. I mean, I wasn't with you guys when you had that conversation, but I remember the discussion with, my manager, Bob Lamond, about summer school and the possibility of it. And even then, though, it was really...
That's a tough one.
I mean, we all wanted to, I would say about every 10 years, there's the possibility of another movie that we're all going to be in together, that's going to be Grease. Now we're the parents of the kids who are going to Rydell. Or now it's like, now we're the grandparents of the kids who are going to Rydell.
And now they just come and they visit our tombstones.
There are scripts that are written, that we are notified. It's looking like it's going to happen this time. And I must say that when we hear that, we do think if we'd all do it, we would all do it again. And it would be, of course, it would have to be a really good script. But I think if we all did it, we would all do it.
Yeah.
And I think that it actually could be a more interesting thing, because I think we did the best that we could with the story as it was. But there might be something that they could do now that could be funny with these characters.
Well, and they came close. Well, first of all, there was a rumor at one point that Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears, they were going to do a remake, which we're glad never happened. But then a couple of years ago, they did Grease Live, and which was basically the original story, but they added things. I had the great fortune to be added as the producer of the television show that brought the National Bandstand to Rydell. And bless your heart, bless you, Jimmy. And Dee Dee got to play the role of Vi, the role that Joan Blondell did. So she had that wonderful scene with Carly Rae Jepsen, where Carly Rae played Frenchie, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've got that name right. And so that was a way for them to infuse some of us into that. Now, they're doing two things. They're doing another movie that is based on the film, but they're also doing a series called Rydell High, in which we could, if they asked us, if they want to consider us as parents, as Jamie said. So there is that happening, and I think it's either the remake of the film or some other, or a sequel of sorts. It's about the T-Birds and the Pink Ladies before. Oh, no, beg your pardon. It's Summer Lovin'. That's what it's called, Summer Lovin'. And it takes place before Grease 1 begins, which would preclude us from being in it, because the whole idea is Danny in Summer Nights. Danny's telling us about this summer that he had. So this is about the summer with Sandy on the beach and wherever prior to that final year, the senior year at Rydell. So those are those two projects.
A series would be, great, and they can tie it into the movie, because, one of the last lines, you ask, or somebody asks Zuko, will we be together forever? And he says, we will. And, there could be a series of you guys, as you are talking about stories of your younger, and then doing a series like they did, like the Young Indiana Jones, have you guys tell stories. And
like I say,
continuation like Cobra Kai.
It's already been written. It's in production. It may not be for the cameras at the moment, but it's already been announced. We haven't been approached, and maybe that's because they're not there yet. But it is going to happen, and I think it's called Rydell High.
Wow.
And then the movie is Summer Lovin'.
Yeah, they need to bring you guys back. Ashes, did you have anything else before we start wrapping things up?
No, I just thank you so much for including. This has been a gift, absolute gift. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. These are always fun for us, and it's a wonderful way that we all reunite as well. So thank you for having us. It's been a real pleasure. Yeah, guys.
From Eddie Deezen, I had a great time.
Eddie Deezen had a great team.
Deezen, yes.
Yeah.
Great questions, and really a fun time. Thank you, guys.
Well,
Yeah, thank you.
It was definitely an honor. I want to thank everybody for watching. We'll do the rundown. We'll find out what everybody's up to. And for me, just Google Leo Pond. You'll find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. I'm not going to say
It's
which.
all true.
Yeah, but we have the Dorkening Podcast Network, which I run. Just head on over to thedorkening.com for more information there. 30 shows on the network. But we'll start with you, Eddie. Where do you like people? Where do you like your fans interacting with you? And I know you have at least one movie in the works, but what do you got going on?
Oh, it's an easy question. I'm a Facebook addict. I'm the world's biggest Facebook nut. I'm on Facebook every day. I write my jokes. I write my trivia. So please visit my Facebook. You're limited to 5,000 friends, and I can't have any more. But I love anybody to visit my page, and I love to write people on Facebook every day. I do. I made a living doing signing shows for like the last 35 years. You can't do them now because of the virus, so I can't do that. But I do these podcasts all over. This has been a joyous podcast, by the way. But I do a couple of these every week, and I always enjoy them. The hosts are always wonderful. And that's about it for me.
Awesome, thank you, Jamie. Where do you like fans interacting with you? And do you have anything in the works?
Well, the things I'm on Facebook too, but I don't do a lot of social media stuff, and I know I should. I always feel like I should be doing it, but I'm here living up in the mountains, and I have a wonderful husband. I have 2 children who are living here. I have a 2-year-old grandson who's living here. 4 horses, 2 goats.
Oh, nice.
2 dogs. I've got I've got a wild life in the wilderness out here. But in terms of projects, the last 3 movies I did, which you probably haven't seen, the most recent was something called Souvenirs, and I recommend it. It's Souvenirs, and there's another movie called Souvenir, but this one came out last year, and when you look at it, it's the one that looks kind of spooky, and I'm really scary. I've got a really good part, and I'm terrifying in it. And then there's another movie that I just did right before that in the Bahamas, where I play a very demented woman, and it's called Cargo. You can see any of these online. And and the movie that you might have seen, which is a little longer ago, like maybe 5 years ago, I got to do a wonderful scene with Johnny Depp in a movie called Black Mass. And I got to play with him, and we had a great time together, and that was a wonderful thing. And the other thing I got to do in recent years that was wonderful is, I don't know if you know, but I was the original Magenta in the Rocky Horror Show, the stage play in Hollywood and on Broadway. And I got to start singing again with my old friend Tim Curry, and we were working on an evening of songs together. We kind of taken a break from it, but we played it a few times, and that's been a real joy to sing again. So who knows what's next? I know I'm playing the next movie I'm going to do that I know of. I'm going to be playing a woman with a cigarette hanging out of her mouth who's a bartender and really down on her luck. So I love playing these kind of really odd old ladies, demented and crazy and dangerous and not really like Jan, but fun to do.
I watched a video of you and Tim Curry singing and absolutely loved it. Definitely look it up online. You can find it. And what about you, Barry?
Well, lately I've been directing, and for the last 6 out of the previous 7 years, I've been going out with Joey Travolta's Inclusion Film Company. Joey is one of John's older brothers, and he has a company called Inclusion Films where we teach film arts to special needs folks all across the country. And so I've been doing that, and it's been a real heartwarming and successful venture. So we go all across the country: Northern California, Southern California, New Jersey, Pittsburgh. We're about to do an online camp for Arkansas at the end of April, where we're going to develop 3 PSAs. And during the summers, during the regular camps pre-COVID, we developed 3 7-minute films and 3 PSAs that they then exhibit in red carpet events the following winter. So that's been very rewarding. You can find me on Cameo, and Jamie, I think you're on Cameo as well.
No, I should do that. I'm going to do it.
Yes. So it's you don't do it yet. Oh, so it's Dinah. It's Dinah.
But this will encourage me.
Yes, it's cameo.com, where people can, for a fee, they can get us to do a video, a greeting, a birthday, an anniversary, a bris, a wedding, whatever.
Just make sure you don't cut the bris video short.
That's right. Well, I take all those pieces, knit them together, and they become a suitcase if I breathe heavy on it. Anyhow, and then also there's a wonderful woman by the name of Mary Holland Tuckwell who has a company called Koala Bear Promotions, and it's Koala, KOALABAIR Promotions.com, and you can get our autographs through Koala Bear Promotions. Koala Bear Promotions. And I guess Eddie's a part of that, Jamie, Dee, Dinah, I forget who else. Randall Kleiser, our director, Michael Tucci, Kelly Ward. So you can get us there. I'm also on Facebook, but I don't normally take a lot of friend requests just because you just get inundated. I don't have a fan page yet. My website is in major need of update, but it is barrypearl.com. Should you care to take a look. Again, it needs major updating, but it has a lot of my history on it. A lot of the links don't work anymore. The links are to reviews that I've had in shows. Again, I have done a little bit of acting. I was just nominated for an Ovation Award for a great production of The Man Who Came to Dinner, directed by my dear friend Bruce Kimmel through Group Rep Theater here in Los Angeles. And we're just here, guys, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you fans. We thank you from the bottom of our collective heart for hanging in there with us. And remember, Grease is the word.
Awesome. Thank you so much. RW.
As you can see, you can find me at officialrwmartin.com. I am also on Cameo. If you want me to do, the bris thing or whatever. And, I just want to say again, thank you for being part of, I kind of had a rough childhood. So, watching movies and TV was an escape for me. And that's what made me want to become an actor as well, to make other people laugh and make other people feel good about themselves. And the only last thing, I have ADD, so I'm probably forgetting something, but I do want to say to Eddie, I absolutely loved you in Midnight Madness. It's another one of my all-time favorite movies. Absolutely love Midnight Madness. I just watched it the other night with my girlfriend because she had never seen it. And
Michael J. Fox's first film, sweetest guy in the world, wonderful guy. And thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
And of course, I enjoyed you in War Games as well. But Midnight Madness, Grease, two of those movies that I could watch over and over and over again and never get sick of. And again, I thank you all for being part of something huge that'll live on forever. Take it away, the next person.
Philip.
Oh, yes. You can find me at darkdiscussions.com, which is an all-news network about films, originally about horror and thrillers, but now art house and foreign films and whatnot. So folks can find me there. And the last thing I wanted to say, and we just had our 10th year anniversary, so over 500 podcasts. And I just wanted to thank our guests again. It was a great time, and I appreciate getting to talk to you, even though I was a little shy and didn't say as too much, but you guys were great.
Thank you.
Oh, you want me to go? All right. So you can find Ashes and myself every Thursday on the Throwdown Thursday podcast. We just did episode 250 last week, and Leo was a part of that. So thank you for being a part of that, Leo. You can find us every Friday on the Loudest Sports Show. You can find me here every Monday. You can find me on Amazon. You can get my book, How Much Do You Tip an Exorcist? You can also find me shortly on The Other Side of Midnight, which should be coming out later this month, I hope. That's a show on the streaming service Pivot. And let's see, where else can you find us? You can find us at throwdownthursday.com, throwdownthursdaypodcast.com. You can also find our Facebook groups, Throwdown Thursday Podcast, as well as the Loudest Sports Show, where we do all our sports memorabilia raffles. And I think that's it. We have anything else? We have social media. We have the TD Thursday podcast.
Just go to throwdownthursdaypodcast.com. You'll find links to all of our social media. That's the easiest thing to do.
Yes.
There you go.
And this week on Throwdown Thursday, we are covering Grease. So
yes.
Oh,
awesome.
cool.
Very cool. I want to thank everybody for watching. And like I said before, just Google me, Leo Pond. Definitely check out the Dorkening Podcast Network. I do 4 shows a week. So we do this Creator Spotlight every Monday with these fine people here. And Tuesdays, I do the Splash Pages Comic Book Club. And then Wednesdays, we do Still Token With, and then the Dorkening. Too many shows. But with that, we'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Bear.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Leo.